avoiding cliches and traps. Two common ones we see a lot at the moment, and it's not to bash on them so much on the traps themselves, but I feel like it's a crutch for a lot of people. So one's colour film and the other is 85mm. Not saying I'm above this because I use neither. I use colour film occasionally, but first I'll start with colour film. I think we're all inspired by people that produce amazing work. And there's always going to be an innovator, and that person is always ahead. And they're doing whatever they're inspired, they've gone through a series of trials and error and replicating their favorite artists and coming out and finding their own way to express themselves the way they want to with all the influences of their influences, I guess. And the innovator innovates, and then what happens is someone else who's skilled but not quite as creative, they're not quite there, comes along and goes, oh, that looks great, I really like how they did that, I'm going to replicate this. And they'll replicate it, but they've got enough skill where they'll put a little bit of their own style into it, but it's essentially a lesser version of the innovator, and it's a little bit watered down and it's a bit more generic. And then what else? And then someone else comes along and goes, oh wow, I saw the slightly watered down version, and then they think that looks great, and then they're like, how'd they do that? And their skill's not quite as high, but they're able to replicate it. They don't put their own flair on it, and then they replicate the replicated, and then someone else who's even at a lesser experience point sees the replication of the replication, and then they then try to emulate that, and we get this bit of a negative feedback loop, and we get a lot of people just producing the same thing over and over. And it happens with 85mm as well, because 85 has that shallow depth of field. Especially on social media, like, it's such a small platform to view art on, that when you have wider lenses, it's hard to really convey what's happening. You get an idea of the image, but it loses its power the smaller it is. Like if you print it like A4 and above, you're, oh wow, this looks amazing. Or even not even A4, maybe like A5, even if it's just a physical print, you can hold it and you can see it. It's just, it has more weight to it because you can see more details. It's not this tiny little square. And unfortunately, that's our main medium, is social media for viewing art and photography especially. So what happens is we see 85 works really well. It's an easy lens to get great photos that look good. And then even if you don't have much skill and you have a really good camera, you can snap off a shot and it will look half decent because of the tools you're using. But what happens is, because the tools are good, but the person wielding the tool, isn't that skilled and doesn't have that much of an understanding, they're only copying what they see. They don't have an understanding of how to really create. And then that goes back to the same as colour film and black and white film. It's not just black and white film. It's not just colour film. It's everything. But colour film in particular, it also lends into like, wow, there's a colourful scene outside, and you take a photo, and if it was on digital, it might be a bit hard to like the raw file might just not come out the way you want it to, and you might not have the editing skills to express yourself and bring out the colours that you want. Whereas the film gets it pretty close. It gets a look, and the film alone carries the photo rather than the context of the photo. And I think, again, what I was saying, we have this negative feedback loop where we keep seeing these copies of the innovator, and because of the way we are and the algorithms, we keep feeding back and refreshing the copied version rather than seeing the innovator. And the innovator is generally, like, at the time, like, whilst they're innovating for a long time, they're not seen, they're not known of, and those voices are getting lost, these innovators that are coming up, because they don't have their voice isn't strong enough to come through the masses of what is just being regurgitated over and over. And yeah, it's just a bit of a trap that we find ourselves in, and it can be demoralizing. So I'm just raising the point that I think we just have to try and stay true into our vision, and there are going to be times where we have to replicate, because when you're learning, that's how you best learn, is replicating through who you're inspired by. If you want to learn a great piece of music from a guitarist like Hendrix, you want to learn Bold as Love. It's a ridiculously hard song to learn, but imagine writing that. Like, learning it's one thing, but writing it is a completely different understanding. So anyone who's been playing, if you've been playing guitar for a few years, you can pick up a guitar and you can learn Bold as Love. It's hard to learn, but you're going to be able to replicate it. But to be in the mindset and to be able to create a piece of music like that is just on a whole nother level. And what we get is, again, you get people copying that style. Not so much Hendrix anymore, because it's a really hard style of guitaring, but you get people copying the innovator, and then the first copies of the innovator, who still have relative success, other people see that and they're like, wow, this is working, I really like this, let's copy that. And then they're getting, again, that watered down version of the original, and we seem to be compounding that watered down version of everything we do because of something's in and works. So I just want to say to look outside of that medium and try and draw influences from whatever external methods possible. It could be music, it could be movies, it could be TV, it could just be outside and watching life. But I feel like, again, to close this, we have an issue of where we're just copying what we see and what's gaining traction, rather than capturing what we see out in life and making it our own take.